Hey there, retail enthusiasts. I'm Isha Dalal, Solutions Architect at AWS.
And I'm Andrew Bremner, Head of Retail, Travel and Hospitality. And we're coming to you from Sydney, Australia.
Welcome to Retail Insights with AWS, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of retail, uncover the latest trends, and explore how AWS is transforming the industry.
From the aisles to the cloud, join us as we dive under the hood of industry leaders and AWS retail experts. We'll explore the latest trends in customer experience, supply chain optimization, data-driven decision-making, and much, much more.
So grab a cup of coffee. You're logged into Retail Insights with AWS.
Have you ever wondered how a century-old beverage icon reinvents itself for the digital age whilst leading the charge in B2B innovation? In today's episode, we're pulling back the curtain on Lion, one of Australasia's most storied beverage companies. From its humble beginnings as a New Zealand brewing collective, Lion's grown into a powerhouse spanning Australia, New Zealand and the US, with a portfolio including Tooheys, 4X, James Squire, Steinlager and many, many more.
When we talk about B2B in retail, we are talking about the world behind the scenes, where companies sell goods or services directly to other businesses, not individual consumers. In this space, wholesalers, manufacturers, and suppliers work closely with retailers, venues, and distributors to keep shelves stocked and operations running smoothly. For Lion, it's about supplying thousands of cases to bottle shops and venues across Australia, New Zealand, and beyond. These deals are big, carefully planned, and often involve special pricing, custom terms, and long-term partnerships that say, let's grow together.
But why does this matter? Because behind every pint poured or shelf stocked, there's a whole network of businesses working together, sharing data, building relationships, and using technology to make the right products land in the right place at the right time. In fact, B2B is an engine of retail. It's bigger than B2C by far, with nearly 80% of sales now happening digitally. That's a stunning leap from just 13% in 2019. And the global market racing towards 48 trillion in 2030, driven by buyers who expect seamless, self-service and personalized experiences, whether they're ordering from a desktop or a mobile device.
In this environment, the winners will be those who can harness technology and data to truly understand their business customers, anticipate their needs, and deliver value at every touchpoint. Businesses are no longer just using data to optimize their operations, they're commercializing it. They're turning every transaction and customer interaction into actionable insights and entirely new revenue streams. This shift is creating new business models and higher margins, making B2B retail not just about moving products, but about moving information and building digital relationships.
And that brings us to the heart of today's episode. We're thrilled to welcome Robb Simpson, Lion's Group Digital and Data Director, a true trailblazer who's helping the iconic company blend a century of tradition with cutting-edge digital innovation and setting a whole new standard for what B2B can be.
Whether you're a retailer, supplier, or just love a good reinvention story, you are in for a treat. Let's jump right in.
Hey, Rob, thanks for joining us today. Maybe let's start with a little bit of an intro to yourself and Lion and your role within the business.
Yeah. So I've been at Lion for about 5 years, which is only a fraction of how long Lion has been around. It's a very old business, maybe 160 years old. And Lion has a rich history with using technology and innovation, not just in our back office and sort of more transactional processes, but in how we actually brew and how we operate our breweries to be incredibly efficient, but focus on incredible quality of our product. My focus is on really translating and making data and technology accessible and relevant for our people so that they can use it in their day-to-day workflows. We've invested heavily in our back office technology, our front end, the systems we use to speak to our customers and to support our teams, but also the data that lives behind all of those platforms, which really fuels them. So, I work very closely with all of our technology teams, but also half my time probably with the business teams as well.
Cool.
That's very interesting. You mentioned that the work of technology, but also the business aspect, which is, I think, really critical, especially in a B2B sort of an industry where your all the focus is not just delivering the right value for your business, but also making sure that the value is coming back to the other businesses that you are interacting with. And you're steering this within your business around the technology and the business. What sort of challenges have you seen in that space? And what sort of new trends that you're seeing that line is leading in that space?
Yeah. Well, I think you made an interesting observation there that it's not just the technology team and the business team, it's also our customers as well. So we have to balance the tension between, the risk and governance based approach of a technology team, the commercial focus of our business teams, and also the needs of our customers who are trying to provide the best experience to their retail customers or perhaps their on-premise customers. A lot of the technology innovation we've seen is coming from the direct-to-consumer world, where these organizations have a direct link with the end customer or consumer. We don't really have that, at least not to a material effect. Yeah. But what we can do is learn from all the investment and the lessons that have come out of that world and bring them into the B2B context. Now, what that's allowed us to do is really offer a sophisticated digital product that really benefits our customers. Now, whether that is through the experience they have ordering through us and self-serving through our marketplace platform, which is arguably, and I know I'm biased, but probably the best in the market, to some of the insights that we're able to provide our field teams so that they can speak to our customers with a bit more of a focus on data and what's happening in the industry. And our customers are really responding to this.
So you mentioned a really important part is having your sales representatives have that data when they go to talk to your customers, right? Mm-hmm. So coming to line, your customers are, and you can dive deep more in that is other bars and those liquor stores and others. How do you see those salespeople responding with the change in the market and also the change into the data and changes of different business that they go with? Because B2B is all about relationship. Mm. That's the core. What I understand is into the B2B space, it's the relationship that your business is building with those other businesses and delivering that trust and value to them.
We've relatively recently launched a new insights platform for our field sales team. It's called Scout. And what Scout does is it provides a number of functions, whether it's a measure of how well we're executing in the retail environment, but also, as I said before, providing some of the insights in order to have those more data-led conversations. I think the true measure of the success of that platform is that it's not a mandatory platform. Our field team can decide to use it or not. We have had, I think, over 80 or 85% uptake and recurring use of that platform since we launched it about 6 months ago. And what that tells us is that not only are the teams able to use it, it's very intuitive and very helpful, but clearly that it's facilitating a better conversation with the customer. What had to go along with that, of course, is the change in the capability so that we could educate our field teams on how to make use of this technology and how to maybe change some of their conversations, so to make use of the data. Mm. And that's been a combined effort between our sales capability people, but also the people responsible for the UX and the experience of the applications themselves. And we learned this 4 or 5 years ago when we launched our marketplace platform, that we needed to pay a lot of attention to change, to the UX and the comms that went around the whole experience.
Awesome. You talk about data a lot in the data platform.
Yep.
Have you got any other good use cases where you've been able to take that vast amount of data that you have access to and commercialize that through to your end customer?
I think a bit of context and history is maybe important here. We made a choice about 3 years ago to invest heavily not only in our data maturity and data quality, but also the platform that supports that that effort. So we partnered with AWS, and we've been evolving that platform ever since, in parallel to our data maturity. Now, what that's given us 3 years on is the ability to leverage that data, because we have reached a level of maturity that we are comfortable with. We're not done. We need to continue on that journey, but we can turn our attention to the more commercial applications of the data. We've spent the last 3 to 6 months really getting focused on the key value pools that if we address, will show up on our P&L relatively quickly.
Awesome.
Areas like forecasting and inventory optimization, that's critical for us. We've got warehouses full of perishable product. We need to make sure that we reduce the time from manufacture to consumption, because quality is of utmost importance to us. But also how we're approaching the market with our trade and promotion mechanics as well, and optimizing the investment that we can put in alongside our customers, so that we get the best outcome in the market for our customers and for Lion, is critical to us as well. And small optimizations when it comes to trade promotions makes a considerable difference.
So you mentioned about the use of data that you guys are using in terms of the trade promotion or inventory management, and leveraging that in the B2B space. And you also mentioned how your sales teams are using that same data. How you're using, in combination of that, the internal use of this data and the sales team, to create a win-win situation for your retail partners, because they get the leverage of the century-old data that you guys are storing, the advanced technology platforms that you are building. So it creates an add-on value for your retail partners. How do you see that transforming?
Yeah. Well, for starters, we're really lucky that we have customers and partners who are really interested in engaging on this conversation around data and the use of technology as a way to make the partnership stronger and the outcomes in market much more successful. I think we're focusing on a couple of different streams. The first is, how can we use data to make Lion as easy to do business with as possible? Now, that becomes very complicated very quickly. But, as we alluded to earlier, the way we're having conversations with our sales team and giving those retailers, particularly the smaller ones who may not have access to some of the market insights or the analytical processes that we do, how we can make their businesses stronger through insights that we can provide. How we're using data and understanding how our customers are interacting with us to make our digital products better and stronger and more seamless. But also, and I think maybe this is most importantly, the data that we're using to inform our marketing decisions, how we're communicating our brands out into the market, and the new products that we're developing, has a direct impact on the success of our customers' businesses. And I think it's the combination of those three things that are really adding up to a lot of success in the market. And even recently, we were given the award as the Supplier of the Year from the Drinks Association, which is out of something like 30 suppliers, and an absolute tremendous achievement, from 11th a couple of years ago to first this year. And not all of that can be attributed to digital and technology and data, but some elements are.
Oh, that's good. Congratulations on that. First of all, and making a leap in a couple of years from 11 to number 1. It's amazing leap.
Yep.
And that also shows that it's not just that you giving value to the retailers, but you are listening to them. So they're giving you feedback as well. what they want to do, and you incorporating that, because that's the whole experience element that comes in, right? And bringing it back to like the feedback loop that we talk about in D2C, like the same, we do that in D2C, but it's in B2B in the similar format, but slightly different, because here you're listening to your customers in a different way.
Yes.
So the conversations are more business related, but also related to what the end consumer also wants.
That's right.
So it's good to see how you. But has you seen any changes in how those retailers are communicating you back?
Look, at the most basic level, we are having more direct and positive conversations, with our retailers, but not only at the front line, not only with our sales focused teams. The technology teams are having direct conversations with our customers. I was in New Zealand a few weeks ago, and we had a number of customer meetings directly with large liquor retailers who were trying to communicate where their businesses are going and what help they might need from Lion and partners like Lion. Not only does that benefit those customers because we can change our offer and provide services, but it provides so much insight that we otherwise don't have available to us. In a function which is, in a B2B business anyway, traditionally fairly back office. And we're trying to change that. We're trying to become much more connected to our business teams and our customer teams as well.
Awesome. And you talk about that B2B and what their customers want. There's an incredible shift in technology at the moment, as we were all seeing. The pace of acceleration in generative AI has gone through the roof. How do you manage that from a technology perspective? Obviously, there's a wealth of opportunity out there from a B2C perspective. Yep. How do you tone that down and make sure that you're creating the correct technology product for your B2B customers?
We're challenged. We're definitely operating in two different worlds. We've spent a lot of time over the last 5 years really strengthening our core technology infrastructure. And whether that is SAP or the partners that we engage with to support that ecosystem, AWS, Microsoft, and so on, we've made significant progress. And we're now in a position where all of that core infrastructure is running really well and efficiently. We can make tweaks around the edges, but we're pretty happy with where it is. And similar to the journey we went on with data, we're now in a position where we can shift our focus to leveraging those platforms and the data that sits within them in order to create real commercial value. And as I said at the top, my role is about making technology and data accessible to those who create value for our business or our customers, those who create value for our consumers. The challenge with that, though, that change in mindset to a more for front end or value add focus, is that there's a lot of marketing hype around that area, and we can become very easily distracted on point solutions or fads or trends, or even the application of inappropriately to certain business problems. I think if there's one thing that any organization, regardless of industry, could benefit from, is a real investment in understanding what problem we're trying to solve. And I know we've been talking about this for decades, but that is the core of it. And once we understand and have a really clear idea of what problem we're solving, how that's linking to our business objectives and the commercial outcomes of the business, then we can start to apply technology, and then we can start to run our change and capability programs. But I think that's the biggest barrier to the effective application of all of this new tech, regardless of whether it's AI or something a little less progressive.
So you mentioned very important part of that is that data that's being used not just internally by your teams, but the sales part of it, and then your customers are leveraging that. But how do you see with the new trends that's coming up, like AI, into the B2B space? Because we have been hearing a lot into the D2C space, but how are you doing that within Lion? And I know there's a lot of projects going on in that space, but how do you see that is going to bring the right value to the business?
So let me start, and I think this is most people, regardless of industry, can probably appreciate this. Is everyone wants AI everything?
Yeah.
And I think within Lion, when we talk about AI, what we mean is probably generative AI, which is a subset of the Lion Intelligence umbrella. We're sort of approaching that in three fairly distinct blocks. The first is fairly basic. That is just personal productivity. So, what are the tools that we're providing to our teams that can basically just help them complete tasks day to day? Now, that could be any of the OpenAI products or Claude or Copilot. Regardless, we're starting to see a lot of appetite, a lot of utilization, whether it's sanctioned or not.
Yep.
People love it, and people are using it, and it's helpful. We're not thinking too hard about what that means from a productivity point of view. It's just too difficult to measure. But we are very supportive of people using those tools. The second bucket are the features that are powered by AI that are coming through our core platforms. So what features ServiceNow, for example, are building into their platform, or SAP, Microsoft, and so on. We want full adoption of those features, but they are not a reason for us to engage in those platforms. We see those as a normal part of the product development lifecycle,
yep.
And we are adopting those as much as we can. The one thing we're very conscious of, though, is that as those products use or invest more and more in AI-driven features, we are becoming more aware of privacy and concerns around data, how our data is being used, and so on. And I can fortunately say all of our partners so far have been very transparent and open, but we are still making sure that we have an eye on that. The third bucket is probably more meaningful. And this is where we're looking at AI or machine learning or any other of these processes to really go after significant pools of value. And as I mentioned earlier, forecasting is a really obvious one. Now, I don't want to go so far as to say that we're in the business of developing software for ourselves, but there is a certain element of what homegrown solutions can we put in place using some of these models, which are becoming more accessible, more cost-effective, and more accurate in order to solve some of those bigger problems. I mean, personally, I believe that that any organization probably can fit their point of view in those three buckets. Mm-hmm. I think the risk profile of each of those buckets is different. There is significant commercial upside to that third bucket where we're building solutions to address value pools, mm-hmm. but there's also significant risk of overinvestment. So we need to be really careful there. What I wouldn't want to see is a slowdown of exploration or appetite in any of those areas. I think they're really key. And core to that is a really robust communications and change program, and also the buy-in of the most senior executive, which we fortunately have. And I would challenge any organization or any executive listening that if you feel that you're a little bit behind on this, it's something to really get behind and something to educate yourself on.
Just diving a bit deep into the third bucket that you mentioned, which is more valuable in mm-hmm. terms of generating a business value. How do you make sure that you're picking the right use case, right? Because everyone has, if you talk up to anyone within your organization as well, like they might have like 100 ideas that they think that technology can help in, but out of those hundreds and thousands of ideas or use cases, how do you pinpoint that which is the one that you want to move forward with?
Okay, so I get excited about this because I have quite a brutal approach to these sorts of questions. So I think there's really three answers to this. So acknowledging that everyone has an idea, or 10 or 100. So there's a lot to sift through. The first thing is get the right people involved, and not a lot of them. 3 or 4 people who really understand where the value in the business are. And for us, that is, look, we're a manufacturing business. Supply chain is a great place to start. Our corporate strategy people, they know where our business is going. And the more educated, particularly on these topics, technology people, get them in a room and decide where you can start and what you can do with low investment so you can prove your point. You don't need massive sponsorship. You don't need to really spin up a huge program in order to go after this stuff. You just need to be brutal in where to start. And that's the second point, is that once you've decided where to start, be ruthless about focusing on, I'm going to do that and I'm not going to do anything else. And that's sort of what we're doing. We've got 4 focus areas, but we're not doing anything else.
Yep.
And the third thing is communicate really effectively with the wider community about what you're doing, why, and what the organization stands to get out of it. So if we've got several sprints running up until the end of this quarter and then on to the end of the year, and that's a really nice time boxed sort of period. And we can be clear with our business about what we're going after, why, and what we're going to achieve by those milestones. All of this is really project management, product development 101. But unless we do it well and invest in that aspect of it, we have a really low chance of success.
Awesome. I'd like to step back a bit. You talked about that. You're a business focused with a foot in technology. I love that term. And the key to success is to meet in the middle, to drive those two parties to be almost a workflow that you've talked about. How are you doing that practically? What is it that you've put in place to enable technology to understand the business and vice versa?
Yeah. Well, okay. So I think this is not a technology question or technology problem. It starts with an acknowledgement that our business teams over the last period have become much more confident in the way that technology can be used to execute their strategies. That said, our technology teams also need to drift towards a much more market-focused point of view as well, to understand how what we're working on in the back office, which are all critical systems. It's how our business runs, but we do need to understand how they tie to those market outcomes. And that's where we start to see this idea of meeting a bit closer to the middle. Now, that's not going to happen overnight. And each team has a role to play in developing that story and that narrative. But what we're really clear on is being a bit more flexible and nimble about where some of that capability and mindset sits. It's not an attempt at full decentralization of the function, because it's so important that we do take a risk and governance based approach to our core operating environment, and that is something that we believe throughout the business, whether we're talking about manufacturing technology or core sort of ERP level technology, but also bringing our business customers into that world and really asking them, well, how do you want to work, rather than this is how we want you to fit into our process. Yeah.
So you mentioned that within line, how we envision, or not just within line, like normally enterprises is bringing the business and the technology together, and more of what you said previously is bringing digital to the market, like, and getting that understanding. How do you see that collaboration then work towards more a customer-centric design? Because that's the outcome you are looking for, to bring the value to your customers or the consumers. How does that fit in that product design or to bring it back, the value to, and how do you see line doing it as well?
I think those closest to the market, so those are our sales or customer service people, have all of the answers. They are talking to our customers day in and day out. Our marketers are understanding our consumers day in and day out. And also our customers. They know their consumers better than we do. So I think success in this area is really making sure that we're having those conversations so that we can provide the services that are optimized to whatever those market outcomes need to be. And in I think 10 years ago, that was relatively easy. I think the market has become so sophisticated, our consumers have become so sophisticated that they're demanding a lot more from technology and a lot more beyond the classic manufacturing ERP sort of core system. So it's an evolution. We are, as a digital and technology function, having to admit that we need to be more than just the custodians of those big platforms. And we need to be able to evolve and be nimble and respond as quickly as the market does to the needs of our consumers.
Talking about that meeting of minds and bringing together the business and technology, if we think 12 months forward, 24 months forward for Lion, what really excites you about the future and what you can do there?
Two things. The first is probably more cultural. I see and we've spoken about this a lot already, as our business and technology teams come closer together, I see a blurring of roles and almost a blurring of responsibilities. Mm-hmm. And what that's going to result in is that more and more people within Lion are going to become business technologists rather than a business person or a technology person. And I think that's really important because when you have tribes, you have tension, and we don't need that. Tension is friction, and we can. I think the more of that we eliminate, the better. The second is this idea that we call Lion Intelligence, and Lion Intelligence is sort of the brand that we're wrapping around all of our AI, machine learning, data, computer vision, all of those sorts of concepts. And I'm really interested to see how that's going to fundamentally change the relationship that the business has with data and how we're using it to drive market outcomes. Cool. And we're really early on this journey. Yeah. We've only been talking about Lion Intelligence and a focus on sort of the front end, connecting technology and data to the day-to-day tasks of our people for 3 months. And already we're starting to see some momentum and a lot of interest. But not only a lot of interest in what we're doing and the outcomes, we're seeing different pathways open up for our people, more opportunities for them to grow and develop. I had no idea we had so many people interested in data science, writing Python, all of this stuff. There's been an underground movement on for a long time that we're just starting to tap into. And I think for an organization like Lion, that's really exciting.
Awesome.
No, it is good to hear that there's a sort of a momentum happening, and the team is also excited about what's happening with the Lion Intelligence and the other projects coming. And just bringing it back together, that like Lion has been working really hard onto that data platform and building that capability. And we always talk to our AWS customers, data is your foundation. Invest in that, because if you don't have a strong data foundation, you will not get the right value out of that. And the business might not get the same output that you might expect. And you guys have invested that as the first step for you and getting the value out of that. And we are seeing that value from the Scout platform. You just mentioned that they're getting like 80-85% uptake, which is amazing, unheard of as well. So no, but thank you so much for talking to us today. It has been an amazing discussion. A lot of learning from me. For me, I have been working with you, but every time we talk, there's something new that comes up, and it's always good learning for us as well. But thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. What an incredible conversation. Today's episodes really highlighted how B2B innovation, data, and digital transformation are reshaping not just Lion, but the entire retail ecosystem. It's clear that the future of retail is all about forging stronger partnerships, harnessing the power of data, and unlocking new opportunities through data commercialization, whilst always keeping the customer center of needs.
Absolutely, Andrew. Lion's journey show us that blending a rich legacy with bold digital moves isn't just possible, it's essential for success in today's fast-paced B2B landscape. By commercializing data and making business buying as smooth as your favorite brew, Lion is truly setting a new standard for what's possible in B2B.
And for our listeners, if you're inspired to rethink your own business or want to explore how AWS can help you unlock the power of data and digital transformation, head over to aws.amazon.com/retail for resources, case studies, and more.
Thanks again for joining us. We'll be back soon with another episode exploring the latest trends and innovations shaping the retail industry. Stay tuned.